Hello everyone, myself Gaurav Kumar Vani, Assistant Professor Agriculture Economics at JNK Jabalpur. Today we are going to talk about scarcity of non-renewable resources. So what are non-renewable resources? These are resources whose supply is limited on Earth. The Mother Earth does not renew supply of such resources because once you include coal, petroleum, natural gases, they are gone in the air. You can't get them back. With the rapid industrialization, the use of these non-renewable resources have increased over time. With increasing use of non-renewable resources, the stock of such resources would get depleted. Natural resource scarcity is indicated by the opportunity cost of exploiting the resources. That is, to obtain an additional unit of resource, what is the sacrifice involved, both private as well as social. So here we are talking about private marginal cost, private opportunity cost, social opportunity cost, both. So, talking about the historical view, so Malthus was very much concerned, Thomas Malthus was very much concerned about the resource scarcity. He wrote a book in 1798, an essay on the principles of population. So he was concerned about the population as well as the food. So he thought that growth in human population would outstrip the natural resource endowment on the planet. He thought that planet has the limited amount of the resources, and humans will use all these resources, so they will get depleted. So his focus was on the land mostly and the food production. The notion was on absolute resource scarcity because he thought resources have on the earth are fixed. Absolute limit is there. The most important natural resources have no substitute available now, and the technology cannot create substitute. So that's why he thought the scarcity may be a problem. So Malthusian view further thought that food production could indeed grow, but this growth would be outstripped by growth in the human population. So he thought that more humans will be there, food production will be less, and there would be scarcity. Because of absolute scarcity, human society will eventually exceed the carrying capacity of the planet, leading society to collapse. But that did not happen because in reality there was a technological growth. We could create more food than the humans could consume, and today we are in abundance of the food. So scarcity in Malthusian sense did not happen. So many ecologists have been influenced heavily by the Malthusian thought. Neo-Malthusian generalized the Malthusian argument to include an overall statement about the natural environment, human population growth, and quality of life. So they also give, uh, doomsday predictions. These Neo-Malthusians, but I am pretty sure it will not be the case in future. Malthusian perspective attaches absolute limits, that is, fixed limits to the non-renewable resources, because they thought that whatever we know today is the proven reserves. So these limits which Malthusians thought are predicted to be binding in the near on the medium term. Forecasts are based on the static stock index calculation, so they did not do a dynamic analysis. So their calculations were focused only on the static index. They use only proven reserve data, so they did not thought that there will be more discoveries in the future. They did not think about the technology side. They thought that demand was to follow an exponential trend, and the food production will follow a linear trend. So therefore the food production growth will be outstripped by the demand growth. So example is limits to growth model of 1970s, and limits to growth model has also failed. So this model was given by Club of Rome, and we'll talk in next lectures about limits to growth model also in detail. Malthusian notion of scarcity also led to concept of strategic stockpile. So let's first talk about what are the strategic materials. So strategic materials or critical minerals is one for which the quantity required for essential civilian and military use exceeds the reasonably secure domestic and foreign supplies, and for which acceptable substitutes are not available within a reasonable period of time. These kind of thoughts come uh, because of war, famines, and geopolitical tensions. So United States long ago thought that their crude oil reserves will fall, and once they get attacked, like Pearl Harbor, they may not have enough crude oil, so they started importing from other countries. They did not use their own proven reserves, and they think that this is the strategic material. They should not export it to others. They should not consume it now. India also started building the strategic reserves of the crude oil, and India is now one of the country which has largest reserves of such crude oil, as for the strategic uh, requirements are given, because we India as a country, we totally depend more than 99% we are dependent upon the imports. Ricardian scarcity concept. So David Ricardo uh, also gave his views. So these Ricardian scarcity, they thought the depletion effect of resource exploitation is felt in terms of rising cost, rising prices of material over time, quality of available resource decline, but it was not in the absolute term that the Malthusians talked. If we talk on these assumptions, so first assumption was that the expansion of recoverable material resource via exploration effort and rapid technological progress will happen. Therefore, the scarcity may not be absolute. The technological progress can enable recovery of material from relatively low grades ores also. So if currently we say that it is not possible to recover metal from some ores, because ore contains very low uh, quality of technical material, so it is not economical. But over the time we have seen that fracking technologies have enabled uh, what do you call production of crude oil, petroleum, diesel from those wells also, where it was earlier not possible due to technological reasons. So technology has enabled a lot over the time, and Ricardians have been proven correct. They also assume that the presence of materials and function substitutes industrial process changes, and scrap recycling will also lead to enhancement of materials, resources, and especially non-renewable resource availability will increase over time. Mineral resource availability will increase over time. So they thought that substitutes may come in over time. Industrial process will change. So since technology is not going to be the static one, so in future the demand will also shift from the currently used resources which are in high demand to some new resources. So they did not attach any absolute limit on the resources. Coming to cornucopians, so these are a set of individuals who assert that the environmental problems faced by society either do not exist, or if at all it exists, it can be solved by the technology or the free market. So they believed in the invisible hand, laissez-faire market philosophy of the Adam Smith, where they felt that self-regulation coupled with technology can overcome all human problems. So this is the cornucopians. So what do they think about the scarcity? So they hold an anthropocentric view of the environment. So they think that humans can control the environment. They reject the idea that population growth projections are problematic. Like Malthusians thought that Earth has finite resources and carrying capacity, that is also got rejected. So they don't believe in such concepts, and they assume that rather than adapting existing natural resources to economic end uses, technological advancement may soon permit the creation of entirely new synthetic materials. And this has really happened, that we have come up with the nylon. Earlier nylon did not exist, and we may thought that jute production will be outstripped by the jute demand, but that did not happen, and nylon substituted for jute. We thought that rubber, natural rubber, will be in lot of demand, and there will be no substitute like Malthusians were thinking. But over the time we got to see artificial rubber also, which could substitute this natural rubber. So these advanced materials, material processing and fabrication may override the issue of resource cost and availability. Yes, the artificial rubber is way cheaper than the natural rubber. That may not be a perfect substitute, but still mixing artificial rubber with the natural rubber, latex, we can reduce the cost also. Then the question is, if resource availability is finite, or the proven reserves are finite, why after all the availability of minerals is increasing at a declining marginal cost? So the cost is decreasing but availability is increasing day by day. So how can it happen? Usually we think that when resources will be depleted, the marginal cost of producing these minerals, metals will increase over time. But what do we see in the reality is that the cost is decreasing. So there must be something, and availability is also increasing. So the first reason that we can give is that substitution of more plentiful lower grade resources for less abundant high grade resources. So we know that when a mine is started, first of all we get to see the availability of high grade material. Once high grade materials are depleted, then we get to see the availability of low grade resources. So low grade resources are always in plenty and high grade resources are mostly in scarcity. So low grade resources can also work for the high grade resources. This is the first reason. The discovery of new material deposits, because earlier we were thinking that the proven reserves are the only available, and will not have new discoveries, but the new discoveries have happened, and this has enabled availability of new uh, minerals, metals, and availability of existing metals at declining cost. Then technical changes in exploration, extraction, and processing and use reduces the cost of production and use. So technology has made it more efficient over the time to extract the resources. So when we become more efficient, the cost of extraction obviously declines, because we are working on technology side. We get to see the more latest technologies on processing, so the cost of processing declines, and we get to see the new uses, new ways to use the existing materials. So the cost of using material has also gone down. Then we see technical changes in extraction and processing technologies have made it viable to explore previously economic deposit. The case of fracking technologies, new fracking technologies have come. New technologies have come where you can extract metal content from very low grade ores, And then you can have one more reason: increasing mineral price encourages exploration of new deposits and recycling of minerals. Earlier people did not think of recycling possibilities. Now recycling technologies have come, so that's why mineral prices are going down, because you need not go for new discovery of deposits. No need to go for new exploration, because for some amount of the demand can be met by recycling of the minerals. And when prices of minerals are increasing, it is always enticing for the mine operators to open new mines and discover new resources. Then increase in price of minerals also, you know, incentivize the production of substitutes, and the availability of substitute will increase as long as the price of minerals is increasing. So if you are considering tea and coffee example, which is a classical example of substitute, then as the price of tea increases, the coffee becomes relatively cheap, and the coffee consumption will increase as long as the tea prices are increasing. Then we want to discuss something about economic measures of natural resources scarcity. So there are basically three measures. First is real unit cost of extraction, real price of natural resource intensive good, and resource rent. One by one we'll discuss each of these. Real unit cost of extraction. So what is the logic here? So our extraction cost over time a better signal of scarcity. So maybe, so the reasons are: high grade deposits are extracted first. Yes, obvious it is. In Karnataka, the gold mines were there. So when Britishers came, they saw that high quality ore, gold ore is available. So they started extraction in the KGF mines. You must have seen the KGF movie also. So in the KGF mines in Kolar, the high grade ores extracted first, and after the Britishers left, only low grade ores were remaining. So once high grade deposits are depleted, then miners will be extracting low grade deposit. Low grade deposits have higher marginal extraction cost. This is the reason now mining in the Kolar for gold is very difficult, because sometimes it is economically not possible to have higher cost of extraction than the prices of the gold, because marginal extraction cost is very high. If lower quality deposits are exploited over time, then increasing scarcity will be reflected in increased use of capital and labor, because to extract ore and metal from the low grade deposits, you need to use more capital, more labor, and more capital will have more cost, which are necessary to produce output. So here assumption is that both capital and labor are of homogeneous quality. Barnett and Morse used this concept of resource scarcity. They thought that we can do this with Cobb-Douglas production function. So Q is the quantity of ore extracted, L is the labor, K is the capital, A is the technology, alpha is the coefficient of labor, and beta is the coefficient of capital. If we assume perfectly competitive market for the resource, then the decision rule says that produce as long as marginal physical product of labor is equals to price of labor divided by price of output. Use the capital as long as marginal physical product of capital is equal to price of capital divided by price of the output, that is over here. And marginal physical product of labor is equal to alpha times Q by L. Marginal physical product of capital is equal to beta times Q by K. Remember, alpha is the coefficient of labor and beta is the coefficient of capital. Once you divide it, marginal physical product of labor by marginal physical product of capital, as per the decision rule, then you get it equal to inverse price ratio PL by PK. And finally you see this after some calculations, and you see that alpha by beta is now equal to PL into L by PK by K. PL by L is nothing but the cost of using labor divided by cost of using capital. So you see that alpha is the coefficient of labor, beta is the coefficient of capital. So they are equal to the ratio of cost of labor to cost of capital. So now if you do some calculation, then you find that beta is nothing but the proportion of the cost, total cost spent on the capital. Similarly, alpha is the proportion of total cost spent on the labor. So to calculate the real unit cost, we can use the alpha and beta. So you multiply the labor and capital by alpha and beta, so you get the real cost, because labor is a real thing. What is the opposite of real? Nominal. So now we are not attaching prices to labor and capital. Instead we are attaching the alpha and beta. So the numerator here is the real cost of extraction. To make it unit cost, we are dividing by the output. So alpha L plus beta K divided by Q gives you the real unit cost. Now talking of advantages, so these measure incorporates technological change which relaxes constraints and allows output to be extracted at lower unit cost. So the A that is there in the production function can change, and that is the technology. Then this measure also allows substitution between inputs at constant rate in response to changes in price of input. So if capital becomes cheap because interest rates are falling, so the miners will use more capital and less labor in response to changes in the price, relative prices of the input. Disadvantage, there are no clear signals which can be inferred from declining or rising unit cost, because unit cost can fall up to depletion of resource due to technological change. So if technology becomes very advanced, then you can continue extracting the resource at declining cost, even though there is a scarcity of resource, but unit cost will be falling because of enhancement in the technology. So declining cost, but still there is a scarcity. So this is not good sign, because we think that when there is a scarcity, the unit cost must be rising. So when substitution of resource by a cheap substitute happens, then obviously the demand for the ore or the something natural resource will fall, because substitution is happening. Then when substitution is happening, demand is decreasing, then extraction will decrease. When extraction is decreasing, then unit cost will be increasing, because if you do extraction at larger level, you will have a lower unit cost. If you are extracting at higher, uh, if you are extracting lower quantity, then you will have higher unit cost. So even though the resource in the question is in abundance, it is in very high quantity, it is not in scarcity, still the unit cost may be rising. So we have seen both the cases, declining unit cost and increasing unit cost, which are not associated with scarcity. So it is difficult to aggregate labor and capital at different stages of resource extraction and processing, because capital is used in many forms, and it is difficult to even value the capital at different stages and aggregate. And labor is also used, and different kinds of labors are used, skilled labor and unskilled labor both. So aggregating them is also difficult. So this measure is difficult to calculate, because the labor and capital, the L and K required, are difficult to calculate for the mines. So whether price of minerals relative to commodities indicate minerals are becoming scarce. So can we use this measure real price of natural resource intensive goods? So maybe in some cases, may not be in some cases. Let's see. So Hotlink's rule indicates that price will reflect the relative scarcity of the resource. So why? Specifically, the scarcer the resource, the larger the Hotlink rent. Larger the Hotlink rent, higher will be the price of the resource, because price is nothing but marginal cost plus resource rent. So larger the rent, greater is the price. So increasing prices may be an indication of scarcity. Advantages, the first advantage can be resource prices are as well available for a long period of time, and this is one good thing when you are trying to calculate the real price over time. This measure is a forward looking price, because markets when pricing the product, they incorporate expectation about the future supplies. Let's say if future supplies are forecasted to be dwindling, then the price will rise. They also incorporate about the cost. If marginal cost is rising, so of course the price of the commodity will be rising. Technological changes happen, so the commodities become cheap. So if these things are incorporated in the price, which are really incorporated, then this is very uh, uh, good indicator. The real price of natural resource intensive good, or real price of the ores, are very good indicator of the resource scarcity. But what are difficulties? So difficulties are in calculating the real relative price, because you need a deflator to deflate. Because if you divide the price by deflator, you get the real price. If you divide the actual market price by the deflator, you get the real price. And there is no consensus among economists which deflator is best, or which deflator is appropriate. So wholesale price index, consumer price index, GNP deflator, or index of number of some intermediate goods, or labor, which one to use? So there is no consensus, so it causes difficulty in measurement. The other difficulties is posed by market price of mineral also indicates many distortions, and these distortions can be through government. So government do legislation, some acts are prepared by government, so they can really change the prices. So India has also seen so many changes in the coal. So earlier at the time of independence, coal mines were owned by so many industrialists. So they individually owned the mine. Then Indira Gandhi government, they nationalized the mines. Then new coal policy came, then coal scam happened, and then new legislation has come after 2014. So many changes have happened. Then taxes, subsidies, coal quotas. We have also one national coal miner. So quotas are fixed for so many sectors, how much coal they can use, how much coal can be supplied to each sector. Then strategic stockpile requirement. So United States still preserves its coal for the future date as a strategic requirement. So there are so many government actions and policies which can distort the market price of the resource in the question. Then there are effect of labor unions, because if labor unions ask for higher wages, the price of the resource in the question will also go up. Then market structure, if it is monopoly, as was the case during 1970s until maybe 1990s, there was a monopoly of the government. Then obviously the price may be high, and the government is not efficient in extracting coal in as we have seen in India. Then international spillovers, the commodity prices in other countries can also uh, increase the price or decrease the price in the domestic market. So these spillovers can be there. Thus market price can include not just effect of scarcity or abundance, but also effect of all changes not directly associated with the real scarcity in the question. So due to this reason, we may discard real price of natural resource intensive good also as a measure of scarcity. Uh, but there are more disadvantages also, which Cohen 1996 has highlighted, that at least two reasons. They have given three reasons that this measure can be a false indicator of resource scarcity, because price does not provide information on the scarcity of open access resources, poorly enforced state, and common property resources when depleted by tragedy of commons. So in these three cases, the price cannot provide information on scarcity, because for open access resources it is very difficult to know, because when the fishing is happening in the open sea, international waters, then it is difficult to know how much fishing has happened, who has done the fishing, because nobody needs a license. For common property resources, tragedy of commons can happen, and the people may shift to um, new site, and they may not find the scarcity as such, because though the one resource is depleted, it there may be scarcity, but that scarcity is not reflected when the supplies are coming from the other sites. Resource prices may decline because production shift to countries where lack of environmental taxes and regulation leads to larger proportion of external cost of resource extraction, use, and disposal not being reflected in prices. This has happened, as I always discuss in classes, pollution heaven hypothesis. When some countries they say that there are no pollution taxes, there are very relaxed pollution norms, you can come to our country, you can start production, as well as pollution, associated pollution, you need not bother about pollution, and you will not have any compliance cost, you need not you know use carbon capture technology, pollution reduction technology. Uh, you don't need any licensing, pollution permits. Okay, very nice. There are no taxes, no regulations. So the cost associated with the production will decline, and the cost is declining, but the environment is getting affected, and these environmental cost, the marginal external cost, is not getting reflected in the resource price. So the resource price will not reflect the scarcity associated with the resource extraction in the question. So uh, sometimes it is also possible that the ecosystem services which are affected due to mining, their valuation is not accounted for in the price, and the compliance cost is also cost of complying with the environmental regulation is also not reflected in the uh, price of the commodity, and sometimes it is not even possible for companies to protect the resource in the question. So due to these reasons, the comprehensive indicator is not the real price of the resource. So we may also abandon this concept of resource scarcity. Then resource rents. So resource rents are considered to be better than real unit cost and real price of the resource. So what is resource rent? So resource rents are the rental value of resource in the ground which is not extracted. It is the true user cost for some non-renewable resources, the user cost is equal to shadow price of a unit of its stock. Let's have more clarification on resource stock. The shadow price reflects the present value of the benefits of shifting the production of a unit of resource to the future. That means if you don't extract 1 unit of the resource today, what is the present value of that 1 unit of the resource? So Hotling gave a concept that the price of the resource is equal to marginal cost plus the resource rent. So to calculate resource rent, you have to just deduct marginal cost from the price. So this value is the value of the additional unit of proven reserve. This is equal to the cost of producing that additional unit, which is also known as marginal replacement cost or discovery cost. Later on we'll also know that why a discovery costs are taken. What are the advantages with these? So advantages include superiority over market price because it correctly incorporates the effect of technological change and substitution possibilities. In the case of resource price, we saw that when substitution happens, the prices may not really reflect the scarcity. So here resource rent will really reflect this scarcity even when there is a substitution possibility. The market price will underestimate scarcity when substitution is possible among the factor input also. Okay, so if it is possible that you substitute labor by capital because capital is becoming cheap. If capital becomes cheap by 20%, then of course it is that capital will be used more, then the price of the output will rise less rapidly than the rent, and that's how market prices will not reflect the scarcity. Disadvantages with the resource rent are resource rents are affected by the government policies as well as by the market imperfections. So market structure also has a bearing. That's why you fail to distinguish between monopoly rent and resource rent. So when you calculate rent, it also includes monopoly rent. Its measurement also requires substantial amount of firm specific data, and the firms, the mining companies are not ready to give this data for resource rent calculation. So this is great difficulty. To overcome this problem of the firm specific data and monopoly rent, we are using a proxy. Okay, but why? The question comes why? Why some proxy? Because, and which proxy? So we are using cost of discovering new deposits, and the reason for using discovery cost is that people will be spending money on exploration on the margin till marginal benefits are greater than marginal cost of extraction. So because there is some logic, economic logic, as long as they get benefit which is greater than marginal cost or the cost, they will continue extraction. So the rents can be reflected in discovery cost of the resource in the question. So no measure of scarcity can claim to be generally correct. Appropriateness of given indicator will depend upon the nature of scarcity. That's what Hall and Hall 1984 said. So they have classified into 4 types of measures. So they said that when absolute size of the resource is fixed as the Malthusians thought and the extraction cost is constant, then your marginal cost will obviously be equal to your average cost. So the marginal cost is equal to average cost when we assume the extraction cost to be constant, increasing cost by a fixed amount. So then price is equals to average cost plus user cost, and this will be a case of Malthusian stock scarcity This can be seen in limits to growth model. Minerals with uniform quality, they have Malthusian stock scarcity, because once the stock is over, you have to close the mine. Then there is something more. Though the absolute size of the resource is fixed, but the extraction cost can be rising with the rate of extraction. So this is Malthusian flow scarcity, because scarcity is now associated with the flow of the resources. So here price is equals to average cost plus present value of the future cost increases due to extraction now, and the user cost. So this is happening in minerals with the declining quality, because if you extract now today, then the cost will be more tomorrow, because tomorrow you will have lower quality of minerals, lower quality of ore to be extracted, from where you will have great difficulty, more cost in finding the metal. Then if you go for Ricardian view, they don't believe in the absolute size of the resources, because they believe new deposits will be discovered. So size is not fixed. There is no absolute constraint on the size. So they believe in rising cost, not in the constant cost. So Ricardian flow scarcity, where you have cost rising with the rate of extraction, so where P is equals to AC, user cost measure is there, and ocean fishery is the best example, because here your average cost is maybe rising as you go, as you want to extract from deeper and deeper, because if you increase rate of extraction in an area, the average cost will be rising, but there is no user cost, because this is an ocean. You need not pay any licensing fee, and once it is depleted in somewhere, you can go other places also. Then there is one more case, Ricardian stock scarcity. So rising extraction cost with the rate of extraction, and also with the amount extracted till date. So if you have extracted more till date, then your average cost will be more tomorrow at higher level. So this is the case of backstop technology, where we have price is equals to average cost plus present value of future extraction cost. So this is groundwater externality. So if the current generation extract more water till date, then for the future generation the cost of extracting water will be very very high tomorrow, and not just for them, and for all future generation. So these are the fourfold classification. Thank you for listening to me.